YouTubers, it's Two-Wheel Rider here, coming to you from a bike which is a little bit left field for me, but thought it'd be a bit of fun and a little bit of a homage to Itchy Boots. So I'm going to do a bit of off-roading here, the only bit of off-roading, and let's have a look around and I'll show you what I've got for you today. So the CRF 250L. So apparently, and I've done a little bit of research here, CRF apparently, don't quote me on this, means competition race 4-stroke, allegedly. Of course, it goes into a whole line of bikes under the CRF banner, right up to the Africa Twin, which is a CRF 1100 now, isn't it? I think. I wouldn't surprise me if that's going to be a 1200 at some point. But so this is, I think this is the smallest version. And this little puppy is a 62, so it's 2012. But as you can see, in pretty mint condition. It's only done about 5,000 miles. So I wouldn't say it's like riding a new bike, but it's all very, very tight and really nice. But these are sort of more your enduro, aren't they? Really, they're not road-orientated bikes by any stretch, I don't think. But this does have the knobbly tyres, off-road tyres on it. They're not overly aggressive off-road, or maybe they are. I mean, the rear is, but you don't actually feel them on the road. You think you'd feel the rubber chunks on the road, but you don't, and it's not actually noisy on the road. And the exhaust is standard, so it's actually quite quiet. But what's really funny is the every time you start it, all you do is picture Itchy Boots videos, starting a little Hondas up and trundling along. And so so this is, I think, the bike that she took to America, wasn't it? And did all that riding over there, and she started to do a load of competitions on it. They were like sort of time trial rallies, sort of Dakar style, but that is that kind of thing, wasn't it? And I think what happened to this one in the end, because it doesn't really have a rack system and all the rest of it, I think hers snapped under here. The actual frame and everything just gave way in the end. And I believe that bike is actually now in a museum somewhere where she finished her last bit of riding on it before she went onto the CRF 300 Rally, which is a really popular bike, isn't it? But so are these. These are there's a little cult following for these little bikes, really, particularly in the States and I think Australia as well. But they're very highly regarded, and you can understand why, because it's a water-cooled 4-stroke single pot 250cc. But I tell you, it doesn't ride like a 250. Or let's say it doesn't ride like a single pot. It's really smooth. There is a bit of vibration through the pegs, but not. Strangely, knowing what I did on the Himalayan the other day, I'm now going to be calling it the Himalayan. I'm getting fed up trying to remember to call it the Himalayan. So the Himalayan, but these are lovely pegs. I know they're quite sharp, those. You don't want to get them digging into you, would you? Or landing on top of you, but they're really nice, these pegs. I don't think these are standard. These must be slightly aftermarket, I would have thought, with all the adjustment down there, but they're lovely pegs. It's got a small screen. There's not much going on in here, but all that you need. But it doesn't have things like a gear indicator. You got a clock. This has only done 5,000 miles. You've got a decent fuel gauge, which is good, and you've got your digital readout there, and just warning lights, temp, and neutral on there. So there's nothing complicated about this bike at all. And you do get rear pegs on these. That's interesting, isn't it? I don't know if I'd want to be on the back, but it could be entertaining. It looks more like an afterthought, that, really. The battery compartment's pretty easy to get to. The seat comes off with a key, and you've got a helmet lock as well, which is nice. Yeah, interesting little bit of kit. But you know the form, we go and do a bit of a ride and give you my thoughts on it. But this is more of a bit of fun, really, than an in-depth review. Right, there'll be no jumps or off-roading or somersaulting. It'll just be my usual sort of road ride. But let's get on with it and I'll have a chat then. thought we'd go up into some of the twisty bits of Petworth, and there's always some slow riding as I try and avoid all the cars in the centre of town. But it gives you an idea what this bike will be like on a road, because unless you're doing trails and stuff in the UK, doing some of your green laning, which I suppose is something this is going to be used for quite a lot in the UK. It'll ostensibly be a road bike, really. And does it work as a road bike in the UK? And consider this little bike is only a single pot 250, it's still producing about 24 horsepower. So that gives you newton meters of about 22. So it's on par with something like the 411 Scram and bikes like that. But it feels really lively for a little bike, and there was very little vibration through it, even though it was a single. I'm assuming that the actual compression ratio is quite high on this bike. As with bikes of this type, you've got a 21-inch front wheel and 18-inch rear, so it's certainly a setup for off-road, and any decent off-road bike is going to have a better front wheel for traversing ground. But it really did feel lively, and although the bike is 2012, it's only got 5,000 miles on it, but it really does chug along nicely. But I think at these slow speeds on the tarmac, you did sort of notice the profile of those tyres a little bit, where some road tyres would have been great for this, but having those knobbies, you did notice it a little bit. Slow speed stability is good. This is always a good test at Petworth Centre, because I can remember coming around here in on the big Harley Road King and finding that a good test for that. Sometimes these tall, small bikes can be a little bit tricky at slow speed like this, but this was very good. It shares that trait with its big brother, the Africa Twin, which I noted when I had that bike. The other thing was, it's not a small bike. You don't feel intimidated on the road. It certainly had a reasonable amount of presence, and I'll show you me sitting on the bike later. And I'm not a small guy, but I didn't feel like I was dominating this bike at all. I felt very comfortable on it, size-wise. And acceleration was good. It didn't feel like it wanted for anything. That 20 odd horsepower is more than enough. I mean, the bike weighs next to nothing really. There's nothing on this bike that it doesn't need. It's designed to do a job, isn't it, for off. Obviously you don't get much wind protection, there's no screen on here, and it's a sort of bike that you want all the flies in your mouth and hitting your face and all the rest of it, and that's all part of the fun for a bike like this. The bike is well geared, and never felt that I ran out of gears. Once you got to around sort of 50-55, it felt very comfortable. You weren't revving the engine hard, and you felt you had a little bit left. Well, quite a bit left really. I think the advertised top speed of this bike is in the upper 80s. So let's check that height thing out again on this bike. It's not actually that tall. I thought it was going to be a bit taller than that, and the bars are quite close to me, but the foot position, I've got quite a bend in the leg, but it doesn't feel cramped at all. I don't feel as if I'm all sort of locked up in here. So the actual riding position is pretty good. I quite like that. You certainly get the feeling you're going to do something. I can imagine all the bags and bits and pieces on it. It would actually be a really nice place to be. But whether I'd want to be on it for that length of time, I don't know. Days and days and days and days and days. I think I'd have to put something on the saddle, wouldn't you? so I thought I'd take a chance and get off on some of the little lanes around here. And this is probably what this bike's going to do in the UK, isn't it? A little bit of sort of country laning, and with your rucksack on, and you've got your sandwiches and your flask, and you're belting along in bad weather and stopping for a cheese sandwich and a nice cup of tea. But yeah, let's see what it's like on these lanes. Brakes were very responsive. You've only got a small disc on here, but they were certainly powerful enough and did the job admirably. Although the lanes were dry, there was lots of gravel and stuff in the middle there, and it wasn't squirming around or anything. Even on this dry day, it's lovely. It always amazes me when you have small bikes like this. This sort of really set a trend, didn't it? When people like Itchy Boots started to do their adventures on small bikes like this, small capacity bikes, it showed everybody that you didn't need a GS to go around the world. You could do it on small bikes, and that the engines were reliable if you kept them serviced. And I think people like her really almost helped develop this market, because no one was really thinking about small capacity bikes for touring at that point. I know there's that great chap who went round on his monkey bike or his C90 and all that sort of stuff, and I think he's still going. And it showed that these little bikes, if you bought a bike that could really cope off-road, had decent suspension, but a reliable engine, and you looked after it, you could do it. And then we had the Himalayan come along, and now look at all the bikes you've got. You know, we've got the latest ones like the CF Moto, NX500, we've got the 400 Scrambler, we've got the new Hemi. All the major manufacturers are looking at this market now and seeing that that's where the money is at the moment. Everything else has been done, hasn't it? But we're all looking at small capacity adventure bikes as the next big thing, if you like. And of course, as the market develops, we see the prices starting to creep up, don't we? You know, the Hemis now, if you want all the bits on it, it's over 6,000. And people start looking at some of the earlier bikes and thinking, well, they still do the job, and I could probably save myself £3,000. You know, this bike's on the market for £3,000 odd pounds. It's not far off buying a new bike, and you're buying a Honda. You know, if you could buy an ultra reliable Honda, as we know they are, to do a major travel in harsh countries, if you like, if you're going to go down to Morocco or Africa, all those sort of areas, then a bike like this does make an awful lot of sense. And you can carry plenty of spares, chains, sprockets and things like that, without impeding the performance of the bike too much. I must confess, I was trying to avoid the water. I didn't want to get the bike too dirty if I could help it. It looks like I'm being quite tentative around some of these bends, because there's still lots of standing water about the place. It was well within its rev limit, easily, and this doesn't have a rev counter, so it's all done by ear, which I quite like that. It brings the connection between the rider and machine a little bit closer, that you've got to understand the bike and what it sounds like and what the engine is doing, and it's a better way of protecting the engine, I think, if you're more in tune with it. Right, I need to get ready to take the bike back after passing a KTM rider who was out enjoying the lanes just like me today. Right, I'm going to take this bike back, and I've had a really enjoyable morning with it. But I shall sign off in proper Itchy Boots fashion. So if you enjoyed the video, remember to give me a big thumbs up, remember to subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care, everyone.